Hey everybody, let me know if you can hear me, please. Can you hear me, Brenda? I'm gonna guess you can. I don't know. Awesome. Well, I guess some people have known that I've made some pretty heavy posts lately, and thought I might kind of explain myself without explaining myself. Um, and we'll see how this goes. So, anyways, I have 5 children. I've adopted 5 children through the cabinet. When you adopt children through the cabinet, you're given certain promises. So I'll give it to you in a backwards scenario and then explain myself. If you were to buy a ball home in Kentucky, you would expect good framework, 2x4s in the walls, studs spaced properly, 4x4s, framework supporting walls, um, good roof, good shingles, insulation, warranties, good equipment, and those promises would be made to you by Ball Homes. And then, um, you know, things would be good for a while, but you knew what you're getting into by buying a home. There are certain things you have to take care of by yourself. So, when you adopt a child through the cabinet, you come to the understanding that there are going to be certain issues. Children aren't removed for no reason, be it abuse, drugs, alcohol, neglect, just millions and millions of reasons why a child will be removed and not returned to the home. That being said, when you adopt, the cabinet for Child Protective Services in Kentucky make promises. They make promises that there's supports. They make promises that there's insulation and to protect you when the children misbehave. There's promises that the children will be covered by insurance for no matter what comes your way, 100%, because they know, I mean, some are drug babies and these things emerge when they become teenagers. Um, some are drug addicted, sex addicted. Um, some have been molested, and so they come with lots of therapy needs. Um, and lots of foster parents and adoptive parents like myself find out when these things occur years after the adoption, because when they're little and they're cute and they're not acting up, those things they don't seem like a big deal. Your kid loves you regardless. I mean, yeah, you have to hold them sometimes when they cry, when the nightmares kick in, when they need support, when um, you have to teach them proper guidelines and boundaries. And again, I'm not being specific to my own case. I know a lot of foster parents, a lot of adopt parents. Molested children have a lot of issues. Um, you know, there's just a plethora of issues. So, the cabinet for family and the cabinet for Child Protective Services, DCBS, have went from one insurance company to another. They went from Passport, who pretty much approved everything, to Aetna, who doesn't approve everything, but they will Zoom meeting with you to tell you to your face that they're going to screw you and that they're not going to give you the coverage and the help that you need. And this is a big deal. I mean, usually when you're I'm a Republican, I'm pro-life, okay, and I will never change that. But in these scenarios, a Democratic governor would usually side with you, and they would usually look out for the welfare of people less, in need. Let's just say these children are the consequences of families that were in need that could not get out of need, and the children had to be removed. And then families like me who take these children in, and trust me, they are my children. I love them. They are biologically, to me, they're biological, 100%. But they come with baggage, lots and lots of baggage that will always, pending God healing them 100%, will be there. And the state was, until about 2014, they were very supportive in the cabinets aspect. And then when you close your home and you're no longer like in their face and they're not coming to your house and they don't have to see you, they cut you off. You're done. And then the insurance passport, no matter what medication it ever was for whatever, for ADHD, for reactive attachment disorder, and if you ever want to know about that one, I'm probably the expert in Louisville. For for medication issues and drug addiction, fetal alcohol syndrome. Sorry. There's lots of medications that are necessary to mentally to contain these children into a state in which they can function. And these are hard things to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about this. In fact, as I talk, I'm watching less and less people watch this because it's going to be a hard conversation. And I don't blame you for that. That's probably why I don't have a lot of friends, because when things go wrong in my house, friends start dropping like flies. Literally, you don't have the right advice, and I didn't ask for your advice. I needed a friend. We all do. Lots of families that are foster adoptive just need friends. And that's real. If I were just to be transparent, we don't want advice from you because you don't know what it's like to comfort a molested child. You don't know what it's like to deal with a drug-addicted baby. You don't know what it's like to have a kid that doesn't love you even though you love them. And you may never earn their love. You don't know what it's like. And I'm not speaking all for my home, but some of these things are applicable. But that being said, when you have an issue now, you can take your hammer and you can smack it in the wall. And you can find out that they didn't put any insulation in there. And you can look where the frames were supposed to be in the supporting walls. And there are no supporting walls in the house. And there are no there's no 4x4s. You got maybe even 1x1s holding up the framework of the house that they promised you they built you with quality and care. The cabinet has no resources. They have no backup plan. They were supposed to have 10 adoption workers. They have 1 or 2. That means for all the children ever adopted that haven't turned 18 yet, there are 2 people that represent Kentucky to call when you have an issue. And they're unreachable, literally unreachable. My adoption worker, they've changed so many times, it's ridiculous. They cannot not replace them, but they can go down to minimal. For foster homes, it used to be 20 kids to a worker. Now I'm going to approximate here. I'm not going to give you an exact number, but it's probably near 70 to a worker. And they're backlogged because they're not taking a lot of cases. And I know a few separate cases where they haven't taken the cases. And I'm going to be specific on this one, but this is not me. If a child hurts another child in the same home, brutally, physical, mental, sexual, whatever, if it's in the same home and they've never babysat the other child, that is not means for Child Protective Services to come in. That being said, there are no resources for that family. There is no if it was sexual, there is no resources for rehabbing that child. And while they're in that moldable age to be rehabilitated, um, Kentucky does not have a program unless that child has been prosecuted. And that's baffling to me. And I can't fathom the fact that sexual addiction is the biggest problem in America. If it weren't a big problem, we wouldn't have all these transgender and the weird things that are going on right now, identity crises. We wouldn't have those if molestations weren't happening, if sexual issues weren't at the peak right now in America. I'm not going to go down that rabbit trail, but let's just say there's a lot of bad stuff going on. And so, in Kentucky, unless your child has been prosecuted for hurting other children outside your home, there is no place for them to go. That means they have to stay in your home, and you have to put up cameras and lock doors and all kinds of stuff like that. Okay? That's just one scenario. If your child has reactive attachment disorder, they will act like an angel when they're in care. Say you had to admit them to the hospital. They'll act like an angel, and they'll be discharged within 2 days, regardless of how many holes they busted in walls and how many people they hurt and the scratching and the hurting of whatever, unless they scratch their own face, and then they think you did it. And you might have accidentally scratched them with the cuff of your sleeve, holding them down from destroying your house and hurting other children or hurting pets or just your livelihood. A lot of adoptive parents have PTSD now because what have we went through as caretakers without a support system. And that's a big deal. And I don't know where this trail is going to lead me and my family. I know that my wife is with me. But we don't know where this is going to lead us. But we know that God has to intervene. And sometimes he needs someone to stand with him and be the voice for these children and for these families. And support groups are not available right now because of COVID. We need to fix that. Even if we have to make little private support groups that are Zoom meetings or whatever, we need a resource. We need to call Andy. I mean, the election's over, people. Trump lost. I voted for Trump, but he lost. So we now have to work with the government that is in hand. We can't just keep hoping Trump's going to fly in on a 747 and rescue us. We have to work with what we've been dealt. And what we've been dealt is people who don't care about our children in Kentucky. Let's just call them Kentucky's kids. Kentucky's kids are hurting, and Kentucky families that have took in these kids are hurting. And we don't have the resources. We don't have the counseling. Aetna Healthcare is who has taken over all of the insurance programs for all of the children that were adopted that haven't turned 18 or 21 if they do college. They took over, and they don't care. I know they don't care. I have talked to them. They don't care. When I called them out, they didn't care. They looked me in the face, told me they agree, and they still decline insurance care. And so my family is going to be in a pickle, in a real soon situation. And, you know, that's a private matter. But we're going to be in a pickle. And the blood will be on Aetna's hands. But they don't care. And the blood will be on Andy's hands. And it'll be on Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. It'll be on their hands. Because they didn't care. And because the cabinet has been declining for so long. And care about cabinet workers that care. And then some that don't care. You should have quit a long time ago. You should know when it's time to step down. If you're not capable of doing your job, if you're not capable of helping the children and helping the families and balancing that act, you should not have took the job. It's like taking a car to a mechanic, and the mechanic takes the car in, but all he knows how to do is buff the tires and clean the walls and clean the interior, but he knows nothing about engines. And we are the engines that need repair. If you don't know about mechanical stuff, you should not take cars. You're absolutely right, Josh. They can't keep people. You know why? Because it trickles down. It doesn't trickle up. I mean, the workers come in with good intentions, and the system's so broken that the system is so broken that they don't know what to do, and they can't fix the problems. But when they come in, and I'll tell you, I had a situation last summer where we had interviews that had to be done, okay? And the worker ignored my calls for at least 3 months after making a major decision that affected my family. And I was so heartbroken that I almost lost my business because my mind was always out in left field trying to figure out how to solve this, where to go, who to reach to. And every time that interview came up, it got canceled. 6 times. 6 times it got canceled. And at the end of the 6 times, we were driving there, and they tried to cancel again. I says, I am literally in your parking lot. I lied. I was 10 minutes out, but whatever. And so they said, okay, hang on a second. So they called down to 7th to L&N building, and they got a sub to come in because you have to have a CPS worker for the interviews on site, but they don't have to be your worker. Guess what? That could have happened 7 times backwards, or 6 times backwards, which means we waited months of rescheduling, lies. I mean, they told me that the investigator was sick with COVID and the building was shut down. And I found out that the worker kept saying that we were sick and we were hurting and we had problems. And she had taken like 3 vacations. All of them overlapped our investigations. She canceled just once, just for no reason. Nobody knows why. And the interviewer was just like, I had an opening. I could have took you any one of those days. But they didn't. And so let's just say that's pretty messed up. I mean, that's how much they care about us. Oh, my music's playing something different that I didn't want. Anyways, Johnny Cash, fine. Little Johnny Cash in the background. But, I mean, that's just me, okay? I'm the guy who has always told everybody to adopt from the cabinet, not adopt overseas. It's safe. Ha! I'm sorry, guys. If I hurt somebody and I told you that, I'm sorry. I know that I don't regret adopting my children. I don't. Not one bit. I love every inch of every child and their hearts, and I know everything about them. But we were given pretenses and we were given promises, and they failed. And it's messed up. It's just messed up. And I'm not sure exactly how this is going to get fixed. I've thought about running for some kind of position. Who was before Andy Brashear? Bevins? Is that who it was? Yeah, Bevins. Bevins did crap for a cabinet. He did crap. I don't know who knows him. I don't know who's friends with him. I know that he's a Republican. I know he's pro-life. I know he did adoption. But guess what? They were foreign, guys. He don't know about the cabinet. Guess who he hired as our liaison? He hired a pastor from California. I'm sorry, from Texas, and his wife, and paid him 400 a year to come here and not know how our kinship care worked. You want to know about how kinship care worked in Kentucky and works currently? Kinship care used to mean that you would get a stipend for taking your grandchildren or nieces and nephews into your home. And you would get a stipend to help pay your bills because you didn't plan for your brother or child to mess up and lose their children. You didn't plan for that, but you stepped up with a promise or an expectation of some help. And so they give the children insurance, and now it's even worse because they got Edna, but they gave them insurance, and with that, but that's not it. The point is they expected a stipend, a help financially, because kids cost money. So kids cost money. Let's see how to fix this. Kids cost money. So here's the deal. Your daughter calls you. Mom, CPS is taking my kids. Come get them. And you rush over to your daughter's house. And you put the kids in your car. And then CPS comes and talks to you about how you're going to take care of the kids. That your daughter can't come see the kids till the case is figured out. Or gets her head straight. And then you find out you're hung out to dry because there's no financial aid for you because you came and the kids were never put in care. If you had let CPS pick up the kids, drive them to L&N building, and then you met them there in the parking lot, but they were sitting in the CPS worker's car on the drive. Say it was a 10-minute drive. Because they were in their car for 10 minutes, you would automatically qualify for half of the stipend that foster and adoptive families get. Does that make any sense? No. Is there a way around it? No. It's just tragic. I mean, some families, some mothers have 5, 6 children, and then they put them on their 70-year-old mother or 60-year-old mother or 50-year-old mother that had their bills set and figured out. But they don't want to see their grandkids on the street or in foster homes. Not that that may not be a better scenario. I know that it happens, and I know some people are successful at it, but a 70-year-old cannot handle 5 children that have not been raised properly and have bad manners and issues and trauma and so forth. So financial aid will be beneficial. We're talking maybe potentially with 5 kids, you're potentially looking at like $1,700 a month in stipends that they could get. Subsidies, I should say subsidies, that they could have got if they had let them get in the CPS worker's car. Nobody's going to tell them that. They want them to get picked up beforehand, so that they don't have to pay. They'll still get the insurance. They'll still have a worker come and invade their house once a month and look around and make sure the kids have adequate room and space, and that boys are with boys and girls with girls, unless they get to be 5 or 6 years old, and then before that they can be mixed in the same room. But once they get the age, they separate them out for safety concerns, obviously, especially if molestation was in their past. But that's a loophole. Kinship care, big loophole in cabinet. The new insurance, big loophole. No support for us foster and adoptive parents, big loophole. Lack of training, big loophole. Lack of honesty, big loophole. Sorry, I look off into the distance. I don't mean to. There's nothing happening over there. I'm home alone. But I thought this needed to be put out there. Share this to Kentucky friends. We're not involved in Indiana, and I've heard their system's a little bit better than ours, but we're not them. This is Kentucky, people. I'm nobody. I'm just a guy who's done this for 17 years. I'm a nobody that knows what's going on. I've almost lost my business 5, 6 times because It is hard to keep your head straight when your family's falling apart because of issues and support. And this year's been really hard, and I'm sorry to any customers that I've had issues with because I've tried to maintain status quo in hard times during COVID and family issues and kids with anxiety. And then you talk about psychiatric issues have gone up major percentages during COVID because kids are stuck at home and antisocial and anxiety and watching TV and scare tactics for COVID vaccines and mask mandates and things like that. You got all of that going on, and then you've got families that are trying to hold it together and nobody to call, no help. Respite care does not exist once they're adopted. Respite care is when you get a break. And then when your kid has major issues, you can't just send them to Grammy's house because she's not ready. She's not ready. And I'm not referring to my mom. But some stuff she can't handle. And I would not put her in that position because I don't want to make her liable. Because the minute you screw up, CPS will come down your throat if it's you. But like I said before, if it's internal, if it's the children on child issues, they don't care. They will not create a case. They will not investigate because they would be liable to help you, to give you support that you need. And that's sad. So, I don't know who's listening. I mean, I see some friends. I see some people that are Facebook friends and real friends, and I want you to know that when you know somebody that's going through this stuff, they don't want you to tell them what to do, how to handle it, because we know you don't know. And that's not, I know I sound angry when I say that, but we know you don't know. We want you to pray for us at night and maybe give us a meal during the day and give us a call and say, hey, how you doing? Is there anything I can do? That's all we want. And to stand up for us against the government, the people who made promises to us. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your feelings. Share this with everybody in Kentucky that you know that has a heart. I'm so sick of the division that they have put on people. My children have started. This has never I have raising 5 children, ages 6 to 17. And I have never had racism come up in my house until this year. And guess what? It's all 3 of them that are in school. Dad's white, mom's brown. I've never heard that before. Why am I hearing this? Guess what? It's not in a Trump year either. It's crazy that my son wants to be white and he's black. He should be proud. I am proud of him. My daughters have to make divisions in their classes. And they're thinking their teachers are racist. Their teachers are just dealing with the behaviors that are at hand. We have to come together, people, for real situations, for real families. Sorry. Anyways, I don't want to ramble. I don't want this to become something that you get bored with the conversation. I'm a factual person. These are facts. I was the guy who cooked for the training sessions for foster care. I was the guy who would help out with people at Hope's Closet. And I still want to, but my mind's not right, people. I've got too much on my plate. Too much going on with current situations. And again, you can tell I'm being vague, but not super vague. I'm going to sue the cabinet if things don't get changed through help with you. I don't know how. Maybe some lawyer can help me. Maybe somebody can connect me with the right person. But I want to make change. and I'm going to do it soon. And I'm going to make it, I want to make our voices clear. Maybe if just the foster and adoptive families stand together, that's a lot of people. But if the non-foster families that know that we're doing the right thing and they didn't have the capacity to do what we did because they just didn't, and that's okay. You have to have a long fuse to do what we do. You can't have a short fuse. You have to have patience. You have to have the means. I mean, you have to have the means. You have to have but patience and a heart, and you have to be the adult. You have to be the one that takes the hit when they're hurting. That I don't know how to explain that. That's hard to explain. It's a deep thing, but you have to, when you're an adoptive parent, especially domestic adoptions. Foreign adoptions I know nothing about and will not pretend to. I know you all have struggles. They're different though. And sometimes they're the same. But you weren't made promises. You did fundraising. You had 50 grand to adopt a child. I did not. I adopted at 23. I adopted 2 children at 23. Another one at 25, 26. And then in 2015 I adopted 2 more. So, but I'm not rich, man. I did it because there was a need and they were going to fill the gaps for the supports that we needed. They promised me that. A lawyer helped me with that. An adoption lawyer helped me sign the promises. And we got nothing. And that's where we are. I got nothing last time I had an issue. I got nothing the time before that. I've had adoptions almost overturned. And I've heard that I am one of 2 that happened to in Kentucky. I remember walking around the neighborhood holding a child that already had my name and crying and praying because the cabinet said, we're not backing you up. We're going to protect ourselves. That's a horrible state to be in when you have nobody backing you up. And they say, if I were you, I would hire the most expensive lawyer I could. Well, back then I worked, where did I work? I worked at AT&T at the smallest store in Louisville, making 32. And my wife didn't work because at that time we had a child that could not behave and she had to stay at home. Because I made a little bit more than she did, and so somebody had to take the hit. So she stayed home, and she hasn't worked since, and she hasn't had the ability to. And now she's going to school for ministry, and I'm so proud of her. But you know, when you get a call from the adoption lawyer, who's a great man, Ken Burgess, great guy. He's done pretty much every adoption in Kentucky or in Jefferson County. Shout out to him. He didn't do this to me. He didn't know. But anyways, got a call. A lawyer has made an example case and has contacted the biological parents who can't read and write, and one's a sex offender, and has convinced them that they were coerced into signing over their rights. And so they're trying to take the children back. And if the judge sees even a glimpse of truth in that situation, he will remove the children and put them in foster care. As if I'm the bad guy in that situation. They're going to remove them from me during the entirety of a case. And you know that would be a 3-year case to decimate an adoption. Or put them back. You know, then I get them back 3 years of damage being put in some foster home that I don't know without my moral compass or standards. So, that's one example. I've got many more. There's one where a child I had adopted, well, hadn't not adopted yet. The mother addicted person, um, told them that someone was fam. Let's just say fam was the word. That means friend that's close in, modern culture. They're fam. But to the cabinet worker, she was racist. She didn't like that this white guy was adopting that child. And so she accommodated that situation. And down to, this is God, this could only be God, but he tests me. He tests me a lot, actually. Sometimes I fail. But this family, they worked swing shifts. So one worked 12 hours, then they would come home, and then the other would work 12 hours. And then they would sleep. So nobody was ever awake in the home. They were in their 50s, and they never had children. And they lived downtown, and across the street was people smoking crack, people drinking on the front porch. There was no yard. The house had windows that were busted out, and she approved this home. And so they were going to court, and knowing that they were going to court, you get the conversation from the cabinet worker that if the judge finds that they are suitable to be the home, that you have 30 minutes to pack up their things and send the kid away, because you don't have the right to have that child. That child belongs with its family. These people weren't his family. I found people's phone number, left voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, because nobody ever asked me his allergies, his sleeping patterns, when he took a nap, what cognitive skills, did he have any effects of the addiction problems of his mother. None of those questions were asked. I went to the house. I banged on the door. I went late at night. I banged on the door. I drove down to the hood and banged on the door because I wanted them to know. If I was going to go down, at least my son was going to know, or at least my son's new parents were going to know what needs he had. This was one of the hardest ones I've dealt with. They were going to know the issues that he had. They never answered. The night before, 3:30 at the night before, I was driving home from cleaning a pond. 3:30 the night before the court case, which was at 9 a.m. the next morning. The family that was going to adopt him called the worker and said, hey, my mom broke her leg. I need to take care of her. I can't make it to court tomorrow morning. Can we postpone for like a week or two? And then the worker said, if they're going to do that to us, this isn't a good placement. And so we had cried for days. We had held the baby. It was hard. The cabinet was not on our side. We were done. We said if this goes through, we are not going to deal with the cabinet any longer. And, it was just depression. It was just tears, prayers. I dedicated the child to the Lord and had a banquet a few days before because we thought he was going away. Because I was his father by that point. So anyways, they canceled. So they negated everything that had been done, and we got to keep the child. I never lost a child. I don't know if I could handle it. I never lost a foster child back to the cabinet. And I've been blessed in that fashion. But I have been threatened in that fashion many times. And that's scary enough as it is. Especially when it's 100% guaranteed when they tell you that. When they're saying 100% go ahead and have his bags packed, whatever you're willing to send back to the family. They don't have any toys and they don't have any clothes. So whatever you want to pack, that would be beneficial. So we had it all packed up. And Catherine was devastated. And I was devastated. So, long story short, Kentucky, the cabinet needs revision. It needs to be revised. It needs to be repaired. I'm not the genius who's going to know how to fix all those things, but I could give you a few pointers. And I don't know, where this is going to go, what this is going to mean, but we need change. There's a lot of kids getting abused out there. There's a lot of cabinet workers that are not investigating. They didn't do any investigations during COVID. That means that everybody that was abused the entire time schools were shut down, there was no investigations, because most times they didn't go into the homes. They would wait until the kid went to school or daycare, and then they would show up there where it was sanitary or they were safe, because they have no longer got police escorts for investigations. So for all those years, these kids have been abused, and the cabinet's going to be flooded. I've already heard it's flooded with cases, and they're not taking them. I mean, obviously, I'm not. My children are safe. Let's just say that my children are safe at the moment, and so since they know my children are safe, they don't care, and it stinks. It really does. But you know what? If to put myself on a level, maybe those other kids need it more than us. But maybe they just need to staff properly and treat their workers fair enough so that they can have enough employees. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here for ideas. But I'm not the guy to answer that. I'm friends with Angela Bishop, Jennifer Mortensen. They're great advocates for this. There's a lot of other people. I had a name of who, if you wanted to contact somebody for change, let's see. I had it pulled up. This name here, this is who you need to contact if you want to contact someone for change. This would be the person. And they're probably going to get ticked off, but if you say, hey, you need to look into helping Tim Woolley, that would be awesome, because there's a certain situation that I'm in currently that they need to call me back, because I've went after the worker, and then I was supposed to have a meeting with the worker's boss, and they've ignored me, and then now I've contacted the commissioner, and she said 24-hour turnaround. If that's too long, contact my secretary. So I've contacted both through email and gotten no response, and that was last Monday. My time is running short for my situation, and is becoming dire. And at some point I may come forward with that information, but I probably won't ever be able to. But if you look up Marcia.Miranda Straub at ky.gov and email her and say Tim Woolley is trying to reach you, please help that family. That would be great. If you say Tim Woolley has some great ideas for the cabinet, that would be great. If you want to contact Andy, I don't know what he's going to do. It's going to be better than Bevins. Maybe. Not a big Bevins fan, but I don't know. I don't know who's going to help us. I don't know who's going to help all these families. But I'll tell you what, if you don't start helping these families, you're going to have a lot of homeless people on the streets, because these kids are going to start getting kicked to the curb. Because without proper support, without a church body to help you, without God, without family to support you, you can't do this alone. There's a lot of single adoptive parents out there. There's a lot of families that don't understand. A lot of people with bad advice. I have heard some bad advice about situation. Whoop the hell out that kid. They shouldn't talk to you like that. Their mom talked to them like that. They learned it from somebody else, not from me. I don't cuss at my kids. I don't cuss. I don't beat my children. I don't do any of that stuff. But I can't punish my child for what they learned somewhere else. I have to teach them what's right. I have to They have to I want them to emulate our behavior. That doesn't mean I ain't messed up. That does not mean that I haven't messed up in the past. Just means I can't do it very often. Because they watch, and the moment you say something, this is with biological children. I'm sure. I don't have any. I don't have any. I got nephews and nieces, and my parenting skills are different than theirs, and we don't mesh well because we're different. And I have to parent different. I have to be tighter. My rope has to be shorter because you give them an inch, they take a mile. And so, but I've gotten a lot of bad advice. Just beat them. Just beat them. Shove a soap in their mouth. Make them drink hot sauce. You know, when they cuss, whatever. Corporal punishment. I've made a kid do butterflies for 30 minutes. I'll admit to that. I've had a runaway. I've gave them a haircut and a zig in their eyebrows so the cops could find them. You got to think outside the box. And that's what Kentucky families are going through. We got to think outside the box because we don't have any owner's manual. We don't have any help. We don't have any counselors for us. We don't have anybody to call. You try to call the cabinet, it's now leave an email if you know about abuse. And they're not going to tell you if they look into it. I've told the cabinet some cases that I knew the child was getting molested. I knew who the raper was. I called the police. Guess what? That kid's been there for 4 more years. And so is the uncle. They don't care. Your kids are getting abused all over the place. 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 3 boys are getting molested in Kentucky. That is the statistic. And now they're not investigating that. That means that every 4th kid you see walk down the streets getting molested without being helped. No help. No wonder teachers are quitting. They have to know this stuff is happening and none of the reports are going anywhere. And the kid comes back every day crying. And then they start acting out. Then they start molesting other kids in the school. This is a real situation, people. I know I'm rambling. I don't even know how long I've been on here. But it's been a while. But anyways, this is what's going on. This is the real deal. People are getting hurt. I'm talking 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds. It doesn't matter. They're all getting hurt. As the world gets more sexual, do you think kids are not going to be the ones that are getting messed with? If you identify as a 10-year-old boy and you're a 40-year-old man, you're wanting to sleep with 10-year-old girls or boys. That's the truth. That's the facts. When we talk about identity crises, you're going to want to be with whoever you're identifying as. You identify as a duck, you're going to want to sleep with a duck. It's just simple as that. The world's messed up. The cabinet's been messed up way longer than this new woke society. And so now we have a woke society that's got what's right is wrong and what's wrong is right. And in one situation that I've got going on, I need help with a child that, has issues with pornography. But I think almost all boys are dealing with that right now. But guess what? That's an opinion. And so since that's an opinion, there's no help. Chew on that. There's no help for that because that's not a medical condition. Depression, let's just give them about 5 pills. There's some great people in the system, and there's a few great ones and a bunch of sour apples. And I don't know how to tell the difference anymore. Sometimes you think they're with you and they're against you the whole time. But anyways, I hope this video doesn't get shut down. share it, like it, tell me how you feel, send me a private message. I'm going to be doing a GoFundMe to help me once I contact a lawyer to help me with this current situation. And if you want to donate, I will give you what details that I feel you can keep to yourself. And pray for our family as we're going to pray for others that are going through this. I know there are. I know there's lots. And God bless everybody. I've also got other stuff, but not for this video. Y'all have a great night. Bye.